Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick. Today we're talking about Rhino's Rocktober event that's going on over the month of October, since October is just a couple of days away. It's something I always look forward to every year, and there's a bunch of great releases coming out this year. There's a bunch of links down below. Make sure you go check all those out. There's links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for our merch page. There's also links for the Vinyl Den Spotify and Apple Music playlist that we put together every week, and also the Patreon page. Make sure you go check all that out. Of course, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me the old thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. So if you're unfamiliar with what Rocktober is, it's kind of, I think this is back in 2015 or 2016 when Rhino started this event. And it's kind of like a bridge between, the record store day in April and record store day Black Friday. It's kind of like that bridge event that kind of gets us all through those long months until we get to another record store day. And every year there's, 10 to 15 great albums that get released. They're always on colored vinyl. They tend to be, pretty limited, but not super limited. And this year there's 13 albums that are coming out this year that there's at least several of them that I'm pretty excited about. And some of them have been pretty kind of hard to find for a while. All of these releases are going to be split over the 4 Fridays in October. So you get, there's 3 releases for October 7th. There's 3 releases for October 14th. There are 3 releases for the 21st, and then there's 4 releases for the 28th. So I'll run down the list in order of release. And also the prices I'll give on here are there's a couple of websites that already have pre-orders up with this. So this is kind of an average of the prices that I'm seeing online for these. So the release is coming out on October 7th. You've got the first one here. This is Candio by the Cars. There are 2 Cars releases, I'll say. The first one, this is Candio. This was originally released back in 1979. It is the Cars' second studio album. This is the album that kind of made the Cars kind of a household name. I know that Let Go and It's All I Can Do were like the big kind of hits off of this album. It's going to run you about $22 online. So, you can go on. I know Bull Moose, and there's a couple other websites I saw that have pre-orders up of these Rhino Rocktober releases. It's a lot of R's for me to say at once, but so that's definitely one that I'm definitely looking forward to. And then you've also got Panorama by the Cars coming out. I will say that Candio is on ultra clear vinyl, not just regular clear. It's ultra clear. But I like some of the names that they come up with colors. But anyway, so that's Candio, and then you've also got Panorama that's being released. Panorama is also going to run you about $22. This is on Cobalt Blue vinyl. It was originally released back in 1980. It is their 3rd studio album. And Panorama is a little bit less poppy than the Cars' first couple of albums were. It did reach number 5 on the Billboard 200 here in the U.S. And Touch and Go, I think it was the only big hit I remember hearing off of that album. And then the third one you got coming out on October 7th, you've got, this is Talking Heads, Remain in Light. This is on solid white vinyl. I'm not a big fan of, I like colored vinyl, but not solid. I think it would have been better if they did some kind of translucent color, but anyway, that's me. It's me being crazy. But anyway, this was originally released back in 1980. It was Talking Heads' 4th studio album, and this is a little bit more of an experimental album than what Talking Heads had done before. There's a little bit more kind of like a funk, a little bit electronic kind of elements to this album, and it's going to run you $25. Once in a Lifetime and Houses in Motion were the 2 kind of big hits off of this. If you're unfamiliar with Remain in Light, you definitely check it out, because I think it's probably one of the best 80s albums I guess I should say that's my opinion, but I think it's definitely one of the best 80s albums. For October 14th, there's 2 Stooges releases, which I'm looking forward to one of them. Maybe, I don't know, we'll see about the other one. But the first one, this is the Stooges self-titled album. This is it says whiskey vinyl, but I read somewhere it's like a whiskey brown is kind of the color that it's supposed to be. It's going to run you about $25, so definitely, I will say that of all these Rhino Rocktober releases, all of them are priced pretty decently. This is going to run you $25. This was released back in 1969. Of course, is the Stooges' debut album. And this is, the Stooges, they're one of those godfathers of punk. I'm definitely a fan of their first album. It's one I've loved for a long time. I actually don't have it on vinyl, so it's definitely one I'm going to pick up. And then they're also releasing their second album, Funhouse. This is on red and black vinyl. It was released in 1970. You know, Funhouse, it's a good album. You know, it's probably one I'll pass on, though. It's also going to run you $25. It didn't have, you know, quite that same punch as their self-titled album does, but like I said, it is okay. It's a decent album. And then this third one, I'm not really familiar with this third one. This is Television, Marquee Moon. This is also on ultra clear vinyl. Released back in 1977, it is Television's debut album. And from what I understand of Television, they kind of get lumped into a lot of those New York mid-70s punk bands, but they're not really like that, even though they're definitely a lot more straightforward rock than a lot of their CBGBs contemporaries of that time period. But that's going to run you $25 also, so you know, not a bad price. I definitely need to check that one out. For October 21st, you've got 3 B-52 releases coming out. You've got their self-titled debut album. This is on Ultra Clear with Red Splatter. Released back in 1979. And this is the, you know, B-52s are one of those kind of founding kind of new wave bands of that, you know, late 70s, early 80s period. It's, you know, I definitely love a lot of their early stuff. Rock Lobster was, of course, the big hit off of that album. I will say that I don't know why they went with the red splatter for this one. With the album cover, as you can see, it's yellow. Probably would have made more sense to go with yellow splatter, but, you know, it's okay, I guess. But the next one, you've got Wild Planet. This is on ultra clear with blue splatter, even though the cover is red, so maybe they should have went with red splatter. But it was released in 1980 as their second studio album. The interesting thing about Wild Planet was during the recording process of their debut album, the B-52s kind of held back some of their good tracks and had that planned for Wild Planet. So they wanted to have a really strong second outing, because they know a lot of bands will have a great first album and then a not so great second album, and then they kind of fall off after that. And they didn't want that to happen, so they kind of held over some of those releases. And then you've also got Mesopotamia being released. This is on ultra clear with orange splatter, which makes sense because it kind of goes along with the cover. Released in 1982, and this is an EP that was released between Wild Planet and I don't remember what their next album was, but the interesting thing, Whammy was their album that came out after Wild Planet. But so this was produced by David Byrne, who of course is the front man for Talking Heads. And they had planned it for a whole album to be released, and then they only recorded 6 of the 10 or 11 tracks that were supposed to be on this. And then there were some conflicts between David Byrne and the band and the label. So after six tracks, it was kind of scrapped. They released it just as that solo EP. So I definitely think that David Byrne's influence is really noticeable on this album. It's definitely one worth checking out if you're not familiar with it. And then that takes us to the last Friday, October 28th. There are 4 releases coming out on that day. 2 of them are NXS releases. The first one, this is Shabu Shuba. This is on ultra clear vinyl, released in 1982. It's NXS's 3rd studio album. This was their first worldwide release, and they peaked at number 46 on the Billboard charts. So it actually did gain some popularity across the U.S. It's going to run you $25. I'm not really familiar with either one of these NXS albums, so I definitely need to go back and stream both of them. The next one, this is The Swing. It's on Blue Jay Opaque vinyl. Released in 84. It was their 4th studio album. And this, from what I understand of this album, it's definitely more of like a heavy and harder kind of sound than the first couple of NXS albums. This peaked at number 52 in the U.S. So both those albums, were somewhat popular here in the U.S. But like I said, I never listened to either one of those. I'm sure I've heard tracks off them, but I've never actually sat down and listened to either one of them. Both of them are going to run you $25. So you got those 2, and then you got Caius Blues for the Red Sun. This is on gold vinyl. It was released in 1992. I think this is the only thing off from the 90s on the Rocktober list this year. This is the second album from Caius. I've only listened to a couple tracks off of this. I'm not familiar. I haven't had, it's probably been 25 years since I've listened to anything off of this. They have it listed as stoner rock online. I know the band members of this band went on and started a lot of really popular bands over the last 20 plus years. Members went on to form Queens of the Stone Age, Fu Manchu, Dwarves, Eagles of Death Metal, and Them Crooked Vultures. So a lot of really heavy hitters in rock over the last 20 plus years. So you get that album for $25, and then the last one on the list is one that I'll probably pick it up, even though I'm not a huge fan of this band or this album. And I think I've already got a copy of it on black vinyl, but I'll probably pick it up anyway. But this is Sex Pistols, Nevermind the Bollocks. It's going to be $25. It's on neon green vinyl. Of course, this album was released in 1977. It's the only album ever released by the Sex Pistols. And so I've got it written in my notes here that it is often listed as one of the most influential punk albums. And then I've got a sad face next to that. I've never been a big Sex Pistol fan. I guess I've always kind of looked at the Sex Pistols as one of those kind of thrown together, kind of made up bands just to, sell clothing. But that's a whole different story of my my hatred. Not, I guess not hatred, but what I don't like about the Sex Pistols. The thing is, like the Sex Pistols, if you actually go back and listen to early stuff, if you can find a copy of Spunk, it's definitely a much different album, much different tracks than what you got off of this album. Spunk is with Glenn Matlock, who was their original bass player, who was pretty early on in the recording of Nevermind the Bollocks. He was fired from the band. Rumor has it because he was wearing a Queen shirt or something like that. Johnny Rotten didn't like him, so they kicked him out of the band. They replaced him with Sid Vicious, and Sid Vicious was so terrible playing bass. He did not know what he was doing. I believe it was their guitar player actually went back and re-recorded the bass parts for this album. So, if you do like this album, definitely make sure you go back and check out Spunk, because I think the Glenn Matlock's bass on Spunk is definitely adds a different element to this album. Well, that's all I got for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what Rhino Rocktober releases you're looking forward to. I know I have such a hard time saying those three words, but let me know what you guys think. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. And that's all I got. Until next time, keep on spinning. Peace.